Well, here we are again. Glad to be back. Glad you're having us back. And great thanks to Chaplains O'Boyle and Teslick for enabling us to connect with you in this way at Columbia. Today that Walt and I are recording this is June the 10th. And I'm just going to ring this bell to let us know we're starting. So my name's Stephen Spiro, and been coming to Columbia for, I've lost track, Walt, 6 years, more than 6 years, 6.5 years, something like that. And doing these groups. And the groups have gone on and are continuing to go on in this strange kind of way now. And in the midst of very strange times, very unusual, intense times. So this sickness, this plague going around, and everybody dealing with that, and on top of that, then all the Black Lives Matter demonstrations and all the events around police brutality and just what's happening in the world today, and that on top of a lot of unemployment and a lot of grief out there with people getting sick and even people dying of this pandemic. So I come to you today with somewhat of a heavy heart, and I'm really glad that I can feel like I have some connection to my groups in many different prisons. Walt and I are doing these Zoom meetings with a number of different prisons and groups. It saddens me that I'm not able to listen to what you have to say. I really value what I've learned from the men in my groups in prison, and I really wish I could give you the chance to give your views and your experience and your opinions on your life and on the life in the greater society. And I'm really sorry that I can't hear that. So all I can really do is be honest with you about where I'm at, and hope to maybe teach some ways that are very ancient and very tried and true that help human beings when there's difficult times going on. So I think that just being able to let you know that I care about you, I think about you guys, I meditate on you, I pray for you and your families and your friends, and I value my connection to you, and that's where I'm coming from today in this group. So glad to be here, and now pass it over to my friend Walt.
And hello, Walt Keogh here. I ditto the remarks that Stephen made. It's unfortunate that we're not able to come in. I am very much vividly recalling the guys who I met in our groups, but I'm also thinking about the other guys who are not in our groups for one reason or another. And you're all very much on my mind. The imagination sometimes can go wild when you think about things that you can't actually see. I have no idea what might be going on within Columbia. And I hope and pray that people are being wise in their reactions to whatever's going on. Now, I have to say that the current events, it's interesting. I kind of like to balance things out and think about, what's coming of this. And one thing by way of balance thinking about this is that there's been a very, very marvelous and healthy coming together in cities all around. We have issues. A lot of people have been concerned about them, but haven't actually been very able to put that into action. And at least people are speaking out. People of all kinds and all kinds of different organizations, companies even are putting out statements. It's only words, but I think that there's a genuine desire there for this country to come together. I certainly hope so. Anyway, that's what I'm looking at. And I'm looking forward to being able to come together with you guys too. So we are the Wisconsin Prison Mindfulness Initiative. We're here to teach mindfulness via meditation in the prisons. And for guys at Columbia who might not have been in the groups and are just kind of curious, or for whatever reason are viewing this now, we start out typically with a practice meditation. It's kind of an example, a sample for people. And so wherever you are, with a cellie or on your own, try to follow along with us, not just view this, but actually try it out yourself, because everything we talk about is based on the experience that we get when we sit quietly and let our minds settle and have our minds move away from whatever they are, concerns about what happened earlier today, or anxieties about the future, or just whatever the random thoughts are that chew up our mental energy. So get into a position. This is going to be a relatively short meditation, but get in a position that's comfortable. You can be relaxed, but on the other hand, not so relaxed that you're going to doze off. So we kind of want, this is an experience of being alert and rested at the same time. So we'll begin with a bell just to signal that we're starting, and then I'll talk a little bit and guide us through. So start just by paying attention to what you're feeling here in your body. What are the body sensations that are most obvious, most evident right now? You know, we probably all can feel gravity pushing us onto whatever we're sitting on. Notice the feeling, the sensation of sitting. For some of us, right away, we're sitting in pain and we notice that pain. We accept it. We don't try to make it go away. We just accept it, but then move on to other sensations in the body. Kind of put your mind where there are neutral sensations. For example, your hands are touching something. Maybe they're touching each other. What are your fingers touching right now, and how do you know that? Without looking at them, can you feel your fingers, right hand and left hand? Maybe they're touching your legs and your knees, maybe something else. Notice what it feels like to pay attention to your fingers. And you know, we think we're sitting still, but we're always in motion. We're always moving because we're always breathing. Notice what it feels like to breathe. Be a little curious about that. You might feel the belly going in and out, the chest moving. What about the tip of the nose, the cool air coming in? Warm air, more humid air going out. Just let your attention go to your body, to what you're feeling. And it's a pretty rare person that kind of keep their attention right on their body all the time. Our minds are meant to wander. But if they go too far, if we wander, we notice that we've been wandering for a long time, bring it back to the body. And sometimes it's helpful if you have one place that's kind of your home base to bring your attention back to. I know a lot of people, it's the breath. It might even be that cool air coming in the nose, might be the most vivid thing that you can use to come back when you notice that your mind has been wandering too far. Of course, if you can't breathe very well, that won't work. So just pick a place on your body that you can use to pay attention to. So I'll be talking about coming back to the breath, but it could be coming back to whatever your spot is. And we come back to the breath again and again because we wander again and again. We don't try to chain our mind to one spot, but we know what our intention is. And the intention is to be present, be right here, not off into the future or back into the past, but right here. You know, one part of the body that holds a lot of tension is the shoulders. You can let your shoulders relax, let them slump. Or another spot is the jaw. A lot of times I notice that my jaw is clenched without any real reason. And if I notice it, and I can just release the jaw, let it hang loose. Just be loose, relaxed. Keeping one eye on the breath, on the motion of the body. Moving up from the jaw, the face. Dozens of tiny muscles in the cheeks, around the eye sockets, forehead. Maybe take a couple nice, very deep breaths just to make that breathing more vivid. Deep breaths, relaxing the face, jaw, shoulders. This is who you really are, sitting here, not reacting to any outside aggravations. Just allowing your own inner peace, a little freedom. One breath leads to the next. So a whole cycle of in-breath, out-breath. Little pause where there's no motion. And then the next in-breath. When my mind is very busy, sometimes I'll count those breaths. I'll just count each in-breath. Count up to 4, and then start over at 1. Just to give that busy mind something to hang on to. Thoughts come and go, but our body is right here. Whatever those thoughts are, we don't have to squelch them. We might even notice what they are and come back to them later when we're not meditating. But right now, just let the thought drift in and then drift out. Don't try to follow up. Or if you do, if you notice, whoops, it's been a long time since I thought about my breath last, just come back. No big deal, no big challenge. Just be here sitting, accepting whatever is happening with you right now. So often I am feeling more relaxed and peaceful when I meditate. And I try to remember this, knowing that this is something that I can do on my own, I can come back to. Notice this good feeling is in my power. Now we'll bring this to a close in about 30 seconds. So in these last few breaths, see if you can follow the entire cycle of in and out. Back to you, Stephen.
Please just take a moment and notice if you're feeling more relaxed, more calm, more centered after that meditation, very skillfully led by Walt Dealing. I want to reflect a little bit on what meditation actually can touch into, sometimes surprising things. So here's a man, George Floyd. I never heard of him. No one hardly ever heard of him. In some place in Minneapolis, and he's killed. Many people have been killed, but this time, suddenly, this ignited millions of people to get off their chairs, their comfortable places, and get out into the street. All over the world. Who could have seen that? Who could have known that one event would cause such tremendous consequences that are still going on? It's almost like, you're walking down a path somewhere, and there's rocks and so on, and trees, and you stop and you pick up or see a rock on the ground and you pick it up, and you look at it, but the rock was covering up a hole, and out of the hole starts coming out all this heat and fire and smoke, and you back away and you say, what's happening here? And you see how big it's getting, bigger and bigger, and it turns out that underneath that little rock there was this huge volcano, that people have been walking over and not paying attention to for a long time. But just this one little thing happens, and suddenly all of this underground, pent up energy, frustration, anger, fear, violence, all comes shooting up into the surface where it can be seen. And we all know this, maybe a friend or somebody in our life, snaps at us, gets mad, insults us, or says something, mean, and maybe, we take offense at that, we get mad back, or, we swear at them or whatever. Or maybe if we know them a little better, we maybe cut them a little slack and say, well, they're not feeling good right now, that they have a headache, or someone at home is sick, or something's going on, and they're just on edge. But it's just that some little small event, some little small thing sets off this huge reaction, and we say, wait a minute, what's going on? Where did that come from? Where did that come from? So it may be that the guy who insulted us, or swore at us, or yelled at us, or did something mean to us, maybe that person has been yelled at, or hit, or abused many, 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 many times in their life. And that's like that underground volcano. It just keeps building up. The pressure keeps building up and building up. And then suddenly some little thing happens and he goes off. Maybe he gets violent. And you say, whoa, where did that came from? That wasn't called for. But it's because of all this underground feeling, this history that's in each one of us, and that's in the whole society, that we tend to just kind of skate over, ignore, or just accept that it's there. And then suddenly something happens, and then our eyes are open. And we see that this is much bigger than we thought it was. I think for a lot of people, violence and destruction and oppression are some things maybe that they know about, but don't really directly experience. But when it comes right in their face, suddenly it's important. It's not just statistics. It's not just another news story. It's there, it's in front of them, and they can see it. And that's when we begin to realize that we're all connected. So how can some event somewhere far away change all these lives all at once? It's not just because of that one event. It's because of everything that's underneath, that's been kept down all these years. And that could be being abused as a child for years and years. Well, eventually that's going to come out. It's going to express itself probably violently. Or living in poverty, not having enough for years and years and years. Eventually that's going to break through and cause some action. Or maybe it's not having a direction, not understanding, being confused in your life, and not knowing what's going on. And it reaches a point where you just can't take it anymore. And that's really what happens for all of us, some way or another. And how does meditation fit into all this? Because if we don't become aware of those underground energies, those rumblings inside of us, we can be sure that they will jump out when we least expect us and bite us in the butt or hurt somebody else. So we can use our meditation to get quiet and allow these feelings one at a time to come into the room that's our mind. And we can look at them and we can say, who are you? Where do you come from? Why do I act this way sometimes? Why do I feel this way sometimes? And we can begin to understand the sources, the reasons for all these thoughts and words and deeds that we engage in that can get us into a lot of trouble, take us down a path of real suffering. If we don't reflect on what's underneath, what our history is, as a personally and collectively, then for sure we're going to be caught off guard again and again, and our life will spin out of control. So how do we manage all the wounds that are internal inside of us, that when we become aware of them one at a time and we look at them? Well, it's just true that when suffering arises, when suffering comes up, if you flip it over, there's kindness and compassion on the other side. And what I mean by that is when we become aware that we have been harmed in some way, we can then, through meditation, bring a sense of kindness and compassion to ourselves. And that will have the effect of dampening down some of these flames that threaten to engulf us. And we can realize that, yes, there is a lot of suffering in the world. And we can be frustrated by that, we can be angry, and we can become part of it and make it worse. Or we can bring on some love and some kindness and compassion for ourselves, for the way we've suffered, and directly for other people and the way they've suffered. Even if we can't feel the suffering the same way some other person does. Even if there's someone who's blind and I really don't know what it's like to be blind, I can still try to understand their reality and have some compassion for them. And that really is one of the ways out of suffering. If we can realize that this volcano that's within each of us, or many volcanoes, are in everyone, and they're actually owned by everyone and go way, way, way back in time, that it's now up to us to either be swept away by these currents of hatred and oppression and greed, or notice that they're there, take a few breaths, and bring some kindness and wisdom to ourselves and to the situation that we personally and collectively find ourselves in. So that's my wish for humans, that we can use these techniques of meditation to deeply understand the reasons why people are suffering in the way they are, and to be able to act with wisdom and compassion to help relieve the suffering in ourselves and in others. So Walt, what do you think? Does that make any sense to you?
Well, you said an awful lot. It makes great sense to me. You said a lot there. You covered a lot, Stephen. So it might be best just to kind of let those things sink in. Maybe repeat what I saw as the highlights for people to kind of latch onto. That we all have these. Every one of us was brought up. You know, no parents are perfect. We all have what we say events in our background. Some of us much more than others, but we all have these knots that were formed when we didn't get our way and we weren't treated the way that we wanted to be treated. Maybe we were abused. Maybe we suffered from various kinds of spankings or abuse or bad words, and we kind of carry those with us, some more than others. And so what you said is that meditating, or maybe even outside of meditating, looking at allowing those feelings to come up one at a time, because they can be pretty powerful, letting them come up in a way that's under control, kind of looking at them, seeing what they are. That can bring the light of awareness, that light of awareness that can kind of make them, it doesn't make them go away, but it makes them less powerful. It gives us a little bit of a handle on them so that we're not surprised next time they do come up, and they're coming up a little bit more under control. We feel it, but we don't necessarily respond automatically with a reaction that we might regret. I guess I would say one thing, and that people probably got, if you're watching this and you're relatively new at meditating, might be all that you can do just to sit and allow yourself to become peaceful. That some of this watching our thoughts, it requires a little bit more experience in kind of allowing our thoughts to kind of come up and allowing us to be meditative and at the same time watch our thoughts. And that takes a little practice before you get there. So don't feel that you've got to do something in meditating other than just be what's natural, watching the breath, watching the body, allowing the thoughts to come up, but don't get hung up on them. And at a time, if you stay with it, persistence, in other words, staying with it, sticking with it, is a key. After a while, and it might not take too long, but after a while, you'll be able to actually notice the thoughts that come up without being carried away into the story that they contain, and just stay present in your body, sitting there, watching yourself breathe and noticing your thoughts at the same time without being carried away into the path. So being kind to yourself involves not taking this thing as a huge challenge, not allowing yourself to get too wrapped up and actually causing yourself more grief because you're dredging up bad old memories. Let them come up, as Stephen said, one at a time, easily done. I guess that's what I would. I guess another thing too is that even for someone beginning meditation, the common word is walk a mile in my shoes. You don't have to be an experienced meditator to kind of pay attention to the wisdom in those words, in that phrase, that we can pay attention to what it's like for somebody else in their shoes. And so if we can put ourselves in the other person's shoes, big time with world events, but also little time, like right now in the challenges, the guy next door, the guy down the corridor, what's going on. If he says something, the better we're able to kind of figure out what's behind what he said, what's driving him. That brings us far along in the ability to relate to that person and relate to what he might have said or what might have happened in a way that's much more realistic. The better we can kind of understand where the other person's coming from, the better we're able to be smart about responding. And that doesn't require a great meditation technique. What it does, it's something though that benefits from practice. The more we kind of just start paying attention to why did that person say that, without the idea of trying to fix them, but just understand them. That's a useful life skill. So anyway, now after Stephen, you brought in several important concepts, I threw a couple more on. So we got a big heap of things for people to chew on.
Yeah. Well, thanks. And I think what you said about finding peace. This world has been swirling around with greed and hatred and violence for hundreds of thousands of years. And there's a lot of suffering in this world. There always has been. And we're fundamentally not going to change the rules of the game. There is suffering in life and in each one of us in our own unique ways. What we can do is we can find ways to be with all of this that's going on all this hardship and challenge that's going on in a way that doesn't contribute to it, but that actually brings some peace and some kindness and some awareness to what's going on, so that we can have some small part in moving all of this in a better direction. So if your meditation practice, as Walt led us, this 10-minute practice, if that can give you some relief, some sense of relaxation and calm, some peace in the center of your body, amidst all the swirling anxieties and activities in life, if we can create or find that place of peace in the middle of us, that's a huge thing. No matter what we've done in the past, no matter what's happening around us, if we can find a place of calm and peace and wisdom, that can be the source of our strength. And that strength, that stability, that will inspire other people. And before we know it, we're bringing wisdom and kindness into the world. And meditation can do that. If we don't ever stop, if we just keep running round and round and round, we're never going to find that place. We need to stop, slow down, take a little time out, and see what's really going on here underneath everything, and how we can be with it in a way that's going to make it better. So yeah, if you're new to this, meditation has many, many, many levels, just like anything else. You start where you're at, and finding and discovering, creating a place of peace in your body right now, in this very moment, is a great place to begin. So thank you for mentioning that, Walt. I think that's really true. Do you want to comment a little bit more before we go into our final meditation?
I think we said plenty so far. I get maybe one thing in looking at this meditation coming up. Meditation is not a job, it's not a task. It's all about letting our natural peace come out. So don't try too hard at anything. Just allow yourself, be alert and be persistent. Come back again and again, but be kind to yourself.
Yeah, and keep practicing every day, even if it's just a little bit. It will have a powerful effect on your life. So let's just take a few minutes here and do our closing sitting meditation. So please begin with the breath. Take a deep in-breath and a long, slow out-breath, and do that a few times. And sit in a way where you're alert. We're not trying to go to sleep here. We're trying to wake up. So we're body relaxed, mind alert. Suffering is a lot like this pandemic that's going on. If we get sick, we can pass it on to someone else. If we have this volcanic suffering within ourselves and we're not sitting with it, we don't have enough peace and calm to hold it, we will pass it on to other people. And so one of the solutions is to, instead of passing on the suffering, to be kind to another person? Is there one thing that you can do today that will bring a smile to one other person? Is there something you can do or say on the phone or in a letter or in person that can bring a little more kindness or peace to your environment? Acts of kindness and wisdom and love are like a spray of water onto the flames. What can you do to show friendliness and support? Not letting go of a desire and a need for justice, equality, not forgetting the past, but making a better present and a better future. What can you do today? Now let's take a few more breaths. Well, thank you so much for your practice. Thank you for showing up and joining us and joining with others who are joining us. I wish you well. Thank you for your practice because it benefits not only you, but it benefits Walt and me and everyone we know. And we'll look forward to being with you again. And I just want to remind you, if you have any comments or questions, write it down and give it to one of the chaplains, and they'll get it to us, and we will very happily read what you have to say and answer as best we can. Walt?
Just hang in there. You've been able to handle everything that's come your way so far, and keep that in mind as you move through day by day. And we'll see you again soon.